Hey friends, it's Ian Khan at Consensus 2025. I've got Tricia Wang with me from a very interesting company. We're talking about decentralization, we're talking about AI, and I want to hear from you what is happening that we need to be aware of, how is industry changing, and why. So welcome to the Futurist.
So much, Ian. So happy to be here.
Tell us about yourself.
So I'm Tricia Wang, and I lead the Decentralized AI Society. We are a new industry association that has emerged really to respond to the need that there's so much fear around AI. Everyone knows what it is. We all use it now. But really, it's all centralized and all feeding back to just a few companies. And there's an emerging field that has been figuring out, it's called decentralized AI. And it's all built on blockchain and crypto, but no one needs to know any of that. All it is saying that, Decentralized AI Society, we're bringing to the leading players are building out the future of the AI society that we're all the apps and all the platforms we're gonna use. But to do that in a way where humans can trust the AI.
Yeah.
And you cannot trust a centralized resource when that's your only choice. Mm-hmm. And so our members are really forging this new path to say we need to give options to society to say, we're not saying centralized AI will go away. We're just saying you have to have options. Yeah. And we have to move decentralized AI into the centralized stack, just like how open source is now part of enterprise stacks. Before it was unthought of in the 90s. Yeah. And now we're moving decentralized AI in.
So let's unpack that. So do we have trust issues with centralized systems, right? We're looking at centralized banking systems, financial systems, governments, private companies that control a lot. So we're going to assume, or it's a fact, that we generally have trust issues. And why do we have trust issues? I'm going to start at the very core, and then we build it up.
We have trust issues because we have no control.
We have no control.
We have no control of what someone is doing, what these entities are doing with our data. We have no agency to say, why is it giving me this information? Why is it recommending that I see this content, this piece of news? Why is it telling me to go on a date with this person?
Yeah.
And not like all these algorithms, all these companies, literally, because it's black box and all in one place, we don't have any control of that. So it's hard to trust something you can't see or have any control over. So that means you actually don't have agency and you don't have the freedom to even have a choice.
Of course.
That is the biggest issue. We don't even have a choice to use anything else other than these centralized tools. And there's nothing bad, it's just the way the technology has emerged or started. Sometimes it's easier to start out in a centralized way, to centralize resources. But now we're at a point where because these technologies are so pervasive, because they control who you love, what kind of house you can buy, where you live, your income, we have to think about, well, how do we give that choice back to humanity? And how do we do the largest wealth, right now the largest wealth extraction has been happening over the last few centuries, including with AI, right? All that wealth has gone to these few companies. And now what we have to enable is the largest wealth transfer back to society to say if we can open up choice and open up the playing field, we can actually have control of our data, which is, this is like the new kind of economy.
Yeah, totally. So we understand that. Perfect. That makes sense. So in this whole world of technology, everything that we see around us, we understand what that centralized thing is. In comes blockchain maybe 10 years ago, 10, 12, 14 years ago, and blockchain technology happened as a result of Bitcoin being released, and then the whole underlying architecture of why it's different, right? It doesn't have to be centralized. So that's what blockchain kind of started and kicked off.
Right.
We're now in the era of AI, right? This is the year of agentic AI. You go anywhere, it's agentic AI, and we don't even know what that means many times. But let's assume we're living in the golden age of AI and everything will be automated. On top of this trust that we don't have with entities and different folks, we are now looking at automation to agentic, and many things will happen in the future. And what you're trying to do, your association is trying to do, is bringing people together who are saying the future needs to be bright, but we need control on AI,
we need choices.
Agentic stuff, on everything, and
on all the layers.
On layers. So,
So one way I think about layers, right? This is regardless, just like all layers of society, is that you always have the hardware, and then you have the software, and then you have the socialware.
Yeah.
And right now, with AI, and all of those layers, we don't have any ability to shape how those layers work.
We do not control the data
hardware.
centers, right?
We don't.
They're in
the
data
compute.
Yeah.
We don't control the software, the algorithms. We can't even see it. Black box.
Cannot modify Facebook or Google. We can't do anything.
And then if you think about the socialware layer, we don't control the policies. We don't have any say in the governance.
Yeah.
We don't have any say in how these models of wealth transfer happen, right? And so what blockchain and this whole field of decentralization offers is that it offers, I think it's really about mass coordination. Distributed coordination because we need mass change. This is a technology that enables people who've never met before in a distributed environment for changes to happen on each layer so that it's not all happening in one place. So what decentralized AI offers is actual control and choice at each layer. And I'm simplifying, right? It's actually much more complex, but just talking about simply at the hardware level, if you're thinking about compute or decentralized infrastructure, our members are doing decentralized compute, pushing it to the edges. We have people doing this on their phones, right? So you actually have the compute layer being decentralized. And you have the data layer being decentralized. And then you have the software saying, well, there's algorithms, there's models, there's blockchain, there's various layers. Layer 1 technology that also allows for you to have that choice to shape the technology. And then at the socialware layer, because the technology is actually the easiest part. I would say it's built. The socialware part is where this is why the industry association formed of DAIS, is that we need to educate society, which is the socialware part, is like to say, well, there is an option and we have to advocate for it, we have to fight for it as consumers, as people, as citizens, and then enterprises, businesses who have a lot of control and have a lot of choice of what to put in their tech stack, but they're stuck with a lot of legacy software, right? We're saying at the socialware level, we also have to educate institutions and enterprises. So this is a whole entire movement to say, we can return the control back to where you have choices. And you can choose, do you want a centralized model, or do you want to work with a decentralized model? At each layer, you can have the choice. And it becomes clear, the value proposition in many contexts is, if you want control and you want to trust, you want transparency, you're going to have the decentralized option.
So who are your members right now, and what is that membership looking like, and what are your plans of growth?
So we're 6 months old, and we already have 10 members in our society. We have various layer 1s. We have Hedera, we have Filecoin, we have Morpheus, which is building a peer-to-peer decentralized AI platform. And we also have Shiza, we also have Near, which is a very familiar name. We also have SETI. SETI does decentralized compute, and we also have Hypercycle. So we have Hypercycle, all of these organizations, there's a few more with Secret Network here, where they're not a layer, they're a tool for encryption. They're the longest standing encryption project in all of blockchain, right? And they're leading the research on not just TE, but what's after, ZPA protocols. So really our membership is growing, and what we want is to have the leading players building out this ecosystem. So we're only 6 months old, but the interest has been big because I think right now, the whole point of an industry association is to lift everybody up. What are the things that only an industry association should be doing? And one of those things would be education, right? Another thing is holding standards, creating standards together. So we're creating working groups where, instead of everyone having their own registry, our partner, MIT, we have Ramesh working on Nanda. It's what if we have a coordination of registries together? So those are examples of projects that make sense. And you have, this follows the path of open source, like Linux Foundation, started to really lift the whole industry up and create the industry, right? And do the kind of education work. And then you have the Red Hats emerge to make it safe for enterprise to buy. So there's so much that needs to happen, but it's really on the socialware level, I think, was where we have to push the most amount of work.
So if you had, the opportunity of reaching to whoever's watching this interview series, tell us about who your ideal member is and how can they join the association? What should they do?
The ideal member is anyone who is working on building the future of our AI society in a way that you want people to trust it, to trust the software. And it just so happens that many of these people are in the decentralized open source space. And so we want to work with you. We work with everyone across the ecosystem, not just layer ones, but people who are building tools, research centers, universities. And it's also civil society. You don't have to be building the technology. You are eventually going to use the technology. Yeah. And so we're working with universities and nonprofits and communities. We have a partnership, a strong relationship with the Bermudan government. They really, really have been ahead in setting the future for digital assets, right? Digital finance. And so for example, the Minister of Education is really thinking about how do we actually use decentralized AI so that our students and our citizens own their own agents. We're talking about the future of agentic AI. Yeah. Why would you want a representation of yourself or your nation or your community to be run and owned by a large company or another, even just any large entity, right?
Of course.
You want to have a say and choice in how that's going to reflect me. Because otherwise, then that is when you lose control, is when you don't have the ability to shape it. So all the fears about AI, most of it can be mitigated by the kind of technologies that are coming out right now in this whole blockchain crypto space. And honestly, people don't even need to know that it's run on blockchain and crypto. Yeah. That's all the behind the stuff. It's like when we send an email, you're not like, I'm going to use TCP/IP to send my data packets to you. Absolutely. You're just like, I'm going to send an email, and the data packets are going to arrive. Regardless, it's going to figure out the most efficient way. Yeah. And this is what we're going to see. And we have a big messaging, narrative building work to do as an industry to bring the whole association, industry together.
Of course. Where can we find you, and where can
you can find us on DAIS.global, DAIS.global. And you can sign up, join our Telegram, and our email address is hello@dais.global. Yeah. I will personally answer your email. We are 6 months old. It's not like we're like 50 people or some like massive institution. Like, this is new, but it's co-founded, with Michael Casey. Yeah. And Michael Casey has been, a big leader, and he's written 6 books on cryptocurrency. Yeah. So Michael Casey is, you can always find him anywhere on Twitter, on Blue Sky. So we're out there. But I'm excited to talk to organizations that really want to build a trusted AI society. Not the opposite of what we have right now. Because you're right, it's not stopping. But how do we make sure that this kind of change of the agentic future is going to be a trustworthy one? And there's really only one option. I think you have to decentralize and create control back at all the layers of the hardware, software, and socialware.
Excellent. So there you go, folks. There, you've heard about it, and that's. I really actually feel passionately about it. I've interviewed both Michael Casey as well as Limon Baird on my documentary called The Bitcoin Dilemma that came out a few years ago.
That's right.
And so they're well renowned. They're amazing folks who always advocate for the right thing.
I mean, if Michael Casey's on top of this, this is big, right? Totally. He's always years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. But thanks for sharing some of these insights with us, and I am confident you guys are going to grow and partner up with a lot of incredible people.
Well, thank you
for
your
joining
help.
us. Appreciate it. Thanks.